He showed up to the construction site every morning at 5 a.m. sharp, hard hat worn, steel-toed boots laced tight, clipboard in hand, for 3 years. The crew knew him as Jack, a quiet foreman who got the job done without drama, until the day the building collapsed with 12 workers trapped inside, and Jack's response revealed 20 years of combat engineering experience that saved every single life. Welcome to the Human Stories. Before we dive into this incredible story of hidden military expertise and life-saving leadership, tell me in the comments where you're watching from today. And if you believe true heroes work among us every day, hit that subscribe button. Master Sergeant Jack Thompson had been out of the Army for exactly 3 years, 4 months, and 18 days. Not that he was counting. Every morning at 4:45 a.m. he'd arrive at the Morrison construction site, 40 minutes before his crew, and do what he'd done for 2 decades in the military: assess, plan, and prepare. The Riverside Medical Center expansion project was his responsibility, a 4-story addition that would house the hospital's new cardiac wing. 18 months of work, 42 men under his supervision, and a deadline that meant everything to the community that desperately needed those medical facilities. To his crew, Jack was simply the foreman. At 52, he was older than most construction supervisors, quieter than most, but they respected him. He never yelled, never lost his temper, but somehow always got maximum effort from every worker. Jack runs a tight ship, the guys would say during lunch breaks, fair but disciplined. What they didn't know was why that discipline came so naturally. Danny Martinez, a young iron worker on his first major project, often watched Jack during the morning briefings. "That guy talks like he's giving military orders," Danny mentioned to his partner. Mike, a veteran of construction sites, shrugged. "Some foremen are just naturally organized. Jack gets results." But there were signs for those who knew what to look for. The way Jack examined blueprints wasn't casual review, it was tactical analysis. The way he positioned equipment wasn't random, it was strategic placement with clear sight lines and exit routes. The way he conducted safety briefings had the precision of military operational planning. Jack Thompson wasn't just a construction foreman. From 1998 to 2018, he was Master Sergeant Jack Thompson, United States Army Corps of Engineers combat engineer. 3 tours in Afghanistan, 2 in Iraq. Specialist in explosive ordnance disposal, structural assessment under fire, and emergency rescue operations in collapsed buildings. But his crew didn't need to know that. They just needed to get home safe every day and build something that would help people. That was enough for Jack. Tuesday, September 15th, started like every other day. Jack arrived early, reviewed the day's plans, checked weather conditions, and inspected the site before his crew arrived. They were working on the 4th floor, installing steel framework for what would become the new surgical suite. The morning briefing was typical Jack: thorough, clear, safety-focused. Weather's clear, winds minimal, good day for heavy lifting. Danny's crew on the north corner, Mike's team working the center support columns. "Remember, if you can't see your safety line, you're too close to the edge." 18 men nodded and dispersed to their assignments. Jack remained at the mobile command trailer, monitoring radio communications and tracking progress against the project timeline. At 10:47 a.m., Jack was reviewing structural specifications when he felt a vibration that didn't match normal construction activity. Too regular, too sustained. His military instincts kicked in immediately. He stepped outside the trailer and visually inspected the structure. 4th floor looked normal. Crews working steadily, but that vibration. Jack keyed his radio. "All crews. Status report. Anyone running heavy equipment right now?" "Negative, Jack. Just hand tools up here. Crane's been shut down for 20 minutes. Concrete trucks not due until this afternoon." The vibration continued. Jack's experience in combat zones had taught him to trust his instincts when something felt wrong. Even when everything looked right, he grabbed his binoculars and examined the building's foundation and support structures. Everything appeared normal. But 20 years of assessing structures under stress had given him abilities that went beyond standard construction knowledge. That's when he saw hairline cracks appearing in the concrete. Supports on the east side. Stress fractures that suggested structural failure was imminent. All crews, this is Jack. Emergency evacuation. I repeat, emergency evacuation. Everyone off the structure immediately. Jack, what's wrong? Everything looks fine up here. Move now. Questions later. Jack's military training took over completely. 20 years of making life or death decisions under pressure condensed into rapid-fire emergency coordination. All crews. Evacuate by the west stairwell only. Do not use the east side. Move quickly but don't run. Account for your partner. But even as he gave orders, Jack knew they might not have enough time. The stress fractures were spreading, and his engineering experience told him they had minutes, maybe less, before catastrophic structural failure. Danny Martinez, working on the 4th floor, keyed his radio. Jack, should we grab our tools, leave everything, move now? Jack ran toward the building, not away from it. His crew assumed he was going to help with evacuation, but Jack was doing something else entirely, conducting a rapid structural assessment to determine how much time they had and where the failure would occur. The cracks in the foundation were spreading faster than he'd expected. Jack recognized the pattern from buildings he'd assessed in combat zones after explosions. This wasn't gradual settling, this was imminent collapse. All crews, double-time evacuation. Building is unstable, but not everyone had made it out. Jack, the voice belonged to Carlos, one of the experienced welders. Danny and 3 others are trapped on the 4th floor. East stairwell collapsed. West side is blocked by fallen debris. Jack's blood ran cold, but his response was immediate and calm, the voice of someone who'd coordinated rescues under enemy fire. How many trapped? For men, Danny, Peterson, Rodriguez, and the new guy, Kevin. Jack keyed his radio to emergency frequency. This is Thompson at Morrison Construction, Riverside site. We have a structural collapse with 4 personnel trapped. Need immediate rescue response. Copy. Thompson, Fire Department en route. Estimated arrival 12 minutes. Jack looked at the building. 12 minutes might be too long. The rest of the crew gathered at a safe distance, watching their foreman assess the partially collapsed structure with a level of expertise that seemed impossible for someone in construction management. Jack, Carlos said quietly, fire department's coming. We should wait for the professionals. Jack continued studying the building, calculating load paths, identifying structural weak points, assessing collapse patterns with military precision. They are coming, Jack replied. But those 4 don't have 12 minutes. Mike stepped forward. Jack, you can't go in there. That whole thing could come down. Jack turned to face his crew, and for the first time in 3 years, they saw someone else entirely. Not the quiet foreman they knew, but someone with command presence, tactical awareness, and the calm authority of someone who'd made these decisions before. Listen carefully. I'm going in to extract those 4. Carlos, establish communication with emergency services. Give them building specifications and tell them we have 4 trapped on the 4th floor. Northwest section. Mike, clear a landing zone for medical helicopters. They'll need space for 4 stretchers. Jack, you're not trained for this. Jack cut him off. Actually, I am. 20 years, Army Corps of Engineers. Combat rescue operations. This is what I do. The crew stared in amazement as Jack opened his truck and pulled out equipment they'd never seen before: tactical communications gear, structural assessment tools, and emergency medical supplies. I need 2 volunteers for rope assistance. Stay outside the collapse zone, manage my safety line, and coordinate with emergency responders when they arrive. Carlos and Mike immediately volunteered. Everyone else, maintain safe distance and document everything for the investigation team. Jack approached the damaged building with systematic precision that revealed decades of training in urban warfare and structural rescue operations. He assessed load paths, identified safe routes, and calculated the building's remaining structural integrity with expertise that amazed his watching crew. Testing communications, Jack spoke into his radio. Carlos, confirm you can hear me. Loud and clear. Jack, Mike, safety line secured, and ready. Jack entered through a gap in the debris that he'd identified as structurally sound. His movements inside were methodical, professional. following protocols his crew had never seen but which were second nature to someone with combat engineering experience. Danny, Peterson, Rodriguez, Kevin, sound off if you can hear me. Weak voices responded from above. All four were conscious but trapped by debris on what remained of the fourth floor. Jack keyed his radio, all for responsive, accessing their location now. What happened next would be talked about in construction circles for years. Jack Thompson, quiet foreman, began conducting a tactical rescue operation with precision that impressed even the emergency respo heirs who arrived to find the operation already underway. Using structural analysis skills learned in combat zones, Jack identified exactly which debris could be safely moved and which supported the remaining structure. He created a safe extraction route while simultaneously providing medical assessment and psychological support to the trapped workers. Danny, I can see you. You're going to be fine. Stay calm and listen to my instructions, Jack. How did you get up here? The whole floor collapsed. Different route. Military training. Just trust the process. Fire Chief Williams arrived on scene to find a civilian conducting what appeared to be a professional rescue operation with military precision. Who's the guy inside? Chief Williams asked Carlos. Our foreman. Jack Thompson. Turns out he's some kind of military engineer. Is he trained for this? Chief, Carlos replied, I've worked construction for 15 years. I've never seen anyone assess a collapse like this. He's not just trained, he's expert level. Inside the structure, Jack was systematically extracting the trapped workers using techniques learned in combat zones, where building collapses were often caused by explosive devices and rescue operations had to be conducted under potential enemy fire. Kevin, the newest crew member, was closest to Jack's entry point but also the most panicked. Jack, I can't move my leg. I think it's broken. Kevin, look at me. I'm going to get you out. But I need you to follow my instructions exactly. Can you do that? Yes, sir. The sir wasn't lost on Jack. Something about his demeanor had shifted the young man's perception of who he was dealing with. Jack carefully removed debris from around Kevin while constantly monitoring the structural stability above them. Each piece of concrete or steel was evaluated for its role in supporting the remaining structure before being moved. Carlos, first extraction coming out. Have medical ready. Jack created an improvised stretcher using available materials and carefully extracted Kevin through the safe route he'd established. The precision and expertise impressed the arriving fire department, who found themselves coordinating with rather than directing the operation. Ma'am, Chief Williams radioed to the emergency coordinator. We've got a civilian in there who knows what he's doing. Former military, possibly special operations. He's conducting textbook building collapse rescue. With Kevin safely evacuated, Jack returned for the remaining three, but time was working against him. The remaining structure was showing signs of additional stress, and his engineering assessment indicated they had perhaps 20 minutes before secondary collapse. Peterson, Rodriguez, Danny, I'm coming for you. Stay put and stay calm. Rodriguez, an experienced construction worker, called out, Jack, how do you know how to do this? This isn't normal construction work. 20 years Army engineers. Jack replied while carefully moving debris. Spent a lot of time in collapsed buildings. Different reasons, same skills. Danny, the young iron worker who'd noticed Jack's military bearing, finally understood what he'd been seeing. You were in combat. 3 tours Afghanistan, 2 Iraq. But right now, I'm just getting you home to your families. Jack's systematic approach to the rescue operation revealed the depth of his military experience. He was conducting radio communication with military precision, structural assessment with engineering expertise, and medical triage with battlefield experience. Peterson's got a potential spinal injury. Jack radioed to the medical team. Going to need full immobilization for extraction. Copy, Jack. How do you know spinal injury protocols? Combat medic training. Part of the job. The fire department team realized they were working with someone whose skill set far exceeded what they initially assumed. Jack wasn't just a construction foreman helping with rescue, he was a military professional with specific training in exactly this type of operation. Chief Williams made a decision that would prove crucial. Instead of taking over the rescue operation, he coordinated with Jack. providing additional resources while allowing the more experienced operator to continue directing. The extraction. The rescue of Peterson required techniques that few civilians would know. Jack improvised spinal immobilization using construction materials while simultaneously monitoring structural stability and coordinating with medical personnel, a combination of skills that revealed extensive field experience. Peterson, I know you're scared, but I've done this before. You're going to feel me moving debris around you, but don't try to help. Let me do the work. Jack, I can't feel my legs. That could be debris pressure or shock. We'll figure it out once we get you clear. Right now. Just breathe and stay calm. Jack's communication with Peterson revealed training in psychological support during trauma, another skill that impressed the emergency responders monitoring the operation. Carlos, Jack radioed. Second extraction coming out. Full spine precautions. Peterson's extraction required Jack to create a more complex route through the debris, demonstrating advanced understanding of structural engineering and rescue operations that went far beyond construction knowledge. As Peterson was safely evacuated, Rodriguez and Danny could hear Jack moving through the debris toward their position with systematic efficiency. Jack, Danny called out, "Are you really military?" Master Sergeant. Army Corps of Engineers, combat engineer, but today I'm just your foreman getting you home safe. Rodriguez, who'd worked with Jack for 2 years, was amazed. Jack, you never mentioned military service. Didn't seem relevant to building hospitals, but turns out the skills transfer pretty well. With 2 workers safely extracted, Jack faced the most challenging rescue. Rodriguez and Danny were trapped in an area where structural damage was most severe, and his engineering assessment indicated that area was most likely to experience secondary collapse. Fire Chief, Jack radioed. I need your assessment. How much time do we realistically have before this section fails? Chief Williams consulted with his structural engineer. Best estimate, 15 to 20 minutes. Copy. More than enough time. Jack's confidence wasn't bravado, it was professional assessment based on extensive experience with building collapses in combat zones where time pressure and structural instability were constant factors. Rodriguez and Danny were trapped under a section of collapsed ceiling, but Jack's systematic debris removal revealed they were both mobile and alert. Okay, guys, here's the situation. This section is unstable, but we have a clear extraction route. Rodriguez first, then Danny. Follow my instructions exactly and we'll all be home for dinner. Jack, Rodriguez said, I've been doing construction for 20 years. I've never seen anyone handle an emergency like this. Different kind of construction, Rodriguez. In the Army, we built things that people tried to blow up. Taught me a lot about how buildings fail and how to get people out when they do. The extraction of Rodriguez revealed Jack's ability to coordinate multiple safety systems simultaneously, managing structural stability, extraction route safety, and medical assessment while maintaining calm communication with both the trapped workers and the external emergency response team. Third extraction coming out, Jack radioed. One more inside. Alone with Danny in the unstable structure, Jack's military background became even more apparent. The young ironworker, who'd been observing Jack's leadership style for months, finally understood what he'd been seeing. Jack. All those morning briefings, those were military-style briefings, weren't they? Operational planning, yes. In the Army, we called it mission prep. Same concept. Understand the objective, assess the risks, make sure everyone comes home safe. And the way you organize work crews, military unit management, different mission. Same principles, as Jack carefully extracted Danny from the debris. The young men saw tools and techniques that clearly came from military training rather than civilian construction experience. How come you never told us about military service? Jack paused in his work, considering the question. Danny, I did 20 years of combat engineering. Built bridges under fire, cleared explosive devices, extracted wounded soldiers from collapsed buildings. When I got out, I wanted to build things that help people instead of participating in war. This hospital will save lives for decades. Seemed like better use of the skills. But you could have gotten a job anywhere with that background. Could have, but I like this crew. good men doing honest work. Reminds me of my old unit, as they approached the extraction point. Danny realized something. Jack, you've been treating us like military unit this whole time. Haven't you? Not just employees like soldiers you're responsible for. Jack smiled as he helped Danny through the debris. Danny, in the army, we had a saying, leave no one behind. Doesn't matter if it's a combat zone or a construction site. Same responsibility. Jack emerged from the collapsed structure with Danny, marking the successful extraction of all four trapped workers, the assembled emergency response team, construction crew, and growing crowd of observers watched as the quiet foreman, who'd revealed himself to be a highly trained military professional, completed what would later be called a textbook rescue operation. Fire Chief Williams approached Jack immediately. Master Sergeant Thompson, that was exceptional work. How long since you've conducted building collapse rescue? 3 years since I left active duty, but the training stays with you, sir. I have to ask, would you consider consulting with our department? We could use someone with your expertise for training purposes. Jack looked at his crew, all safely accounted for, all receiving appropriate medical attention. Chief, I've got a hospital to finish building, maybe after we complete the project. The construction crew gathered around Jack with no understanding of who they'd been working for. Carlos spoke for the group. Jack, why didn't you tell us you were military? Because it didn't matter for the job we were doing. We were building something important, working as a team, getting everyone home safe every day. Military or civilian, that's the mission. Mike, the veteran construction worker, understood something others didn't. Jack, you weren't just managing a construction project. You were taking care of us the way you took care of soldiers. Mike, good leadership is good leadership. Take care of your people, accomplish the mission, maintain standards. Works the same whether you're building bridges in Afghanistan or hospitals in America. Danny, still shaken from the experience, looked at Jack with new appreciation. Jack, you saved our lives today. How do we thank you for that? Danny, you thank me by finishing this hospital. Every patient who gets better care because we built this facility right, that's thanks enough. 5 days later, after investigation by structural engineers and approval by safety inspectors, construction resumed on the Riverside Medical Center expansion. Jack arrived at 5 a.m. as always. But now his crew understood they were working for someone whose sense of responsibility had been forged in combat zones. The morning briefing was typical Jack, thorough, clear, safety-focused, but now the crew listened differently. Understanding that their foreman's attention to detail and safety protocols came from military experience, where attention to detail meant the difference between life and death. Weather's clear, inspectors have cleared the site, new structural supports are in place. We're behind schedule, but we're going to catch up by working smart, not by cutting corners. The crew nodded with new respect. They'd seen Jack risk his life to save theirs, had watched him conduct a professional rescue operation that amazed emergency responders, and had learned that their quiet foreman was a decorated military veteran. But Jack made it clear that nothing fundamental had changed. Same rules as always. Everyone goes home safe, we build it right, and we take care of each other. Danny raised his hand. Jack, are you going to keep working construction? Danny, I've got a hospital to finish. After that, we'll see. But I like this work. I like this crew. Building things that help people is good work. Carlos asked the question everyone was thinking. Jack, do you miss the military? Jack considered carefully before answering. I miss my old unit. I miss the sense of purpose. But you know what? This crew gives me both. We're building something that will help thousands of people. We take care of each other. We accomplish difficult missions together. Different uniform, same values. 18 months later, the Riverside Medical Center expansion opened with a dedication ceremony attended by community leaders, medical staff, and the construction crew that had built it. Jack Thompson stood with his crew, watching as the first patients were admitted to the new cardiac wing. Mayor Davidson addressed the crowd. This facility represents not just medical advancement, but the skills and dedication of the men who built it. We're especially grateful to the construction team led by Jack Thompson, whose leadership and expertise ensured this project was completed safely and on schedule. The crowd applauded, but Jack stepped forward to the microphone. "Thank you, Mayor Davidson. But this facility represents the work of 40 skilled tradesmen who came to work every day committed to building something that would help their community. I was just the foreman." After the ceremony, Dr. Sarah Mitchell, the new cardiac wing director, approached Jack. "Mr. Thompson, I understand you saved for workers' lives during construction. As someone who will be saving lives in this building, I wanted to thank you personally, Doctor. Those 4 men saved themselves by staying calm and following instructions. I just helped them find the exit." Dr. Mitchell smiled. "I also understand you're a military veteran, combat engineer, 20 years, Army Corps of Engineers. Well, Master Sergeant Thompson, you built us a facility that will save hundreds of lives each year. Thank you for your continued service." Jack looked at the building, then at his crew, then back at Dr. Mitchell. "Doctor, building this place with these men has been an honor. Every patient who gets better care here, that's mission accomplished." 2 years after the medical center opened, Jack Thompson still shows up at construction sites at 5 a.m. sharp. He's taken on larger projects now, training younger foremen, passing on both construction skills and leadership principles learned in military service. Danny Martinez, now a skilled iron worker and crew leader, often tells new workers about the day he learned what real leadership looks like. "Our foreman saved 4 lives that day. But what I learned was that he'd been taking care of us every day from the beginning." Military training taught him that leadership means being responsible for your people, no matter what. The Riverside Medical Center has treated over 10,000 cardiac patients since opening. Dr. Mitchell sometimes looks out at the building during difficult surgeries and remembers that it was built by men who understood that their work had life or death importance. Jack never talks about his military decorations, his combat missions, or the dangers he faced in 20 years of military engineering. When young workers ask, he gives the same answer: "That was a different mission. This is the mission now." But sometimes, during morning briefings when he explains safety protocols with military precision, or when he organizes work crews with tactical efficiency, or when he takes personal responsibility for every worker's safety, his crew understands they're working for someone whose leadership was forged in the most demanding circumstances. The construction industry is better because Master Sergeant Jack Thompson chose to continue serving after military retirement. His crews are safer because they work for someone who learned leadership in combat zones. And communities are stronger because their hospitals, schools, and public buildings are constructed by someone who understands that building things right the first time can mean the difference between life and death. So I ask you, have you ever worked for someone whose quiet competence hid remarkable experience? Someone whose leadership seemed effortless because it was built on a foundation you couldn't see? Share their story in the comments. Because at the Human Stories, we believe the greatest leaders often wear hard hats instead of uniforms, carry clipboards instead of weapons, and serve their communities by building the infrastructure that keeps us safe and healthy. Subscribe if you believe heroes continue serving in civilian life. Share if you've worked alongside someone whose military experience made them exceptional in civilian careers. And remember, next time you see a construction site, look twice at the foreman. They might be much more than they appear.